I am Lily's husband, Jack. I never thought that my happy and blissful married life would ever be disturbed. But everything changed after Lily hired a fitness coach. Lily is tall and blonde, and her curvy figure is the envy of countless people. After she started going to the gym, she became increasingly close to the coach, unbeknownst to me. Recently, I have felt an indescribable strangeness emanating from Lily. Once, our lives were like a harmonious symphony, and she shared every detail of her joys and sorrows with me. But now, the familiar melody is gradually going out of tune. In the morning, sunlight streams through the blinds and falls on the bedroom floor, creating golden shadows. In the past, Lily would always lazily lie in bed, waiting for me to gently wake her up so that we could prepare breakfast together. But now, she always gets up early, being careful not to wake me. I pretend to be asleep, squinting my eyes to secretly observe her. She stands in front of the closet, carefully selecting clothes, her eyes revealing a kind of anticipation that I have never seen before. She would repeatedly adjust the position of the collar in the mirror and arrange her silky blonde hair, making sure that every strand was just right. Her makeup became more and more exquisite. In the past, she would simply apply lipstick and put on some cream, but now she had eyeshadow, blush, and mascara. She looked at herself in the mirror, carefully drawing the eyeliner, her expression focused, as if she were going to an important event. After getting ready, she grabbed her gym bag and walked out of the house briskly. I watched her leave, and an inexplicable sense of unease welled up in my heart. During the day, when I was at work, Lily's image would inevitably pop into my head. I wondered what she was doing at the gym right now and whether she was with that trainer Alex. In the past, she would send me messages while working out to share her training results, but now her phone was eerily quiet. Finally, after work, I decided to go pick up Lily. When I walked into the gym, I was greeted by a mixture of sweat and hormones. People on the treadmills were running rhythmically, and the sound of dumbbells clashing could be heard everywhere. I searched the crowd for Lily, and finally, I saw her. She was standing in the corner with Alex, the two of them close together, almost touching. Lily's face was beaming with a smile I hadn't seen on her face in a long time. Alex had a toned body and a tan that shimmered in the lights, and his eyes revealed a kind of admiration and longing for Lily. I walked towards them. Every step felt as if I were walking on cotton, a little unsteady. As I got closer, their conversation came to an abrupt end. Lily saw me and a flash of panic crossed her face, but she quickly regained her composure. She smiled and said, "Honey, what are you doing here?" Alex, on the other hand, greeted me politely, "Hello, Jack." His voice was low and full of magnetism, but it sounded especially harsh to my ears. I forced a smile and said, "Here to take you home." Lily nodded and began to pack her things. During this process, I noticed that Alex's eyes never left Lily. The possessive look in his eyes made the anger in my heart begin to burn. On the way home, Lily seemed a little quiet. I tried to break the awkward atmosphere by asking her about her workout at the gym today. She simply replied a few words and then fell silent again. I looked at her, my heart filled with doubts. When we got home, Lily went straight to the bathroom. I sat on the sofa, my mind replaying the scene I had just witnessed at the gym. I couldn't understand why Lily, who had once loved me so much, had become like this. Had I not done something right? Or had this Alex cast some kind of spell over her? The more I thought about it, the more annoyed I felt, so I got up and walked to the window, lit a cigarette. The night outside was dark, the lights of the city twinkling, but my heart was dark. After a while, Lily came out of the bathroom. She was wearing a loose-fitting pajama top, her hair was still damp and smelled faintly of shampoo. She glanced at me, then walked over to the sofa and sat down, picking up her phone and starting to scroll through her social media accounts. I walked over to her and sat down, trying to put my arm around her shoulders, but she instinctively avoided it. My heart ached as if it had been stabbed by a sharp blade. "Lily, is there something you've been hiding from me lately?" I finally couldn't hold back and asked. Lily's body tensed slightly. She didn't look at me, but said indifferently, "No, Why would you think that? I looked at her and said seriously, you've changed a lot recently. You no longer share your life with me as you used to, and your relationship with that coach Alex makes me feel uncomfortable. Lily finally looked up when she heard what I said. A flash of anger crossed her eyes as she said, "Can you stop being so petty? Alex and I are just a normal coach and student relationship. Don't think too much about it." After she said that, she got up, walked into the bedroom, and slammed the door behind her. I sat on the sofa, looking at the closed door, my heart full of helplessness and pain. I didn't know why our relationship had become like this, nor did I know how to fix it. In the following days, Lily continued to go to the gym every day after getting dressed up, and our communication became less and less. I felt as if there was an invisible wall between us, preventing me from getting close to her. One day, I stayed late at work. When I dragged my tired body home, it was already late at night. I opened the door, and the room was dark. Lily had not yet returned. An ominous feeling welled up in my heart, and I took out my phone to call her. The phone rang for a long time before she finally picked it up. On the other end of the line, her voice was a little breathless, and loud music was playing in the background. "Where are you? Why aren't you home yet?" I asked anxiously. Lily paused for a moment and said, "I'm hanging out with friends. I'll be home later." After that, she hung up. I looked at the phone, and my anger flared up again. I didn't believe she was out partying with friends. I felt sure she was with Alex. I decided to go out and look for her. I drove around the city streets frantically looking for her. Finally, in front of a bar, I saw Lily's car. I parked next to it and walked into the bar. The bar was dimly lit and the music deafening. I searched the crowd for Lily and finally saw her. She was sitting in a corner with Alex, the two of them close together, Alex's hand on Lily's shoulder. I rushed over, pulled Alex's hand away, and said angrily, "What are you doing?" Lily looked at me with a shocked expression on her face. She stood up and tried to hold me back, saying, "Jack, don't be like this. We were just chatting." I looked at her, my eyes full of disappointment and anger, and said, "Chatting? You guys had a great time chatting." Alex stood up and looked at me coldly, saying, "Jack, you're being too impulsive." I looked at him, furious, and said, "Stay away from my wife, or I won't let you off the hook." After that, I grabbed Lily and walked out. Lily struggled behind me, but I ignored her completely. When we got home, we had another big fight. Lily accused me of not trusting her, while I accused her of betraying our marriage. The sound of our arguing echoed through the silent night, like sharp blades, cutting up the little bit of affection that was left between us. That night, we didn't sleep. We sat on either end of the sofa, silently watching each other. I knew that our relationship had reached a very dangerous edge, and if it wasn't dealt with in time, our marriage could fall apart. But I didn't know what to do, and I was struggling with pain and confusion. Ever since I saw Lily talking intimately with Alex at the gym, a heavy stone had been weighing on my heart, and I could never let go. On the surface, I pretended to be fine and went to work and lived my life as usual, but inside I was constantly overcome by a sense of unease and anxiety, and I couldn't stop thinking about Lily and Alex's relationship. One evening a few days later, my friend Tom and I met at our usual bar. Tom and I have been friends for many years, and we grew up together, so we have almost no secrets from each other. We sat at a corner table with a few beers on the table. In the dim lighting, the noise from the surroundings seemed to be cut off. I drank my beer absent-mindedly while chatting with Tom about work trivia. But my thoughts kept drifting to Lily, wondering what she was doing at the moment and whether she was with Alex again. Tom seemed to sense my absent-mindedness. He put down his glass, stared at me intently, and said, "Jack, is there something on your mind lately? I can see that you're distracted. Don't keep it from me." I hesitated for a moment, not knowing whether to tell him about Lily. But in the end, the pain inside made me decide to pour out my heart. I took a deep breath and told Tom everything about Lily's recent changes and the scene I saw at the gym. After hearing this, Tom's brows furrowed. He was silent for a while, then said slowly, "Jack, I didn't want to tell you, for fear of upsetting you. But since you've told me, I think it's necessary for you to know. The other day, I saw Lily and that trainer at the mall. They were acting very intimately. Lily had her arm around his shoulder, and the two of them were laughing and talking. It looked like their relationship was more than just casual. Hearing Tom's words, my heart sank, as if I had been hit by a heavy hammer. Although I had already guessed something, when I got confirmation from someone else, the pain and anger were still unbearable. My hands gripped the glass tightly, and my knuckles turned white from the force. No way. Lily wouldn't do that. She loves me, and our marriage has always been happy, I said, my voice trembling, trying to convince myself that this wasn't true. Tom looked at me helplessly and said, "Jack, I wish I was wrong, but this is the truth. You need to calm down and think about what to do. I think you need to have a good talk with Lily and sort things out." I leaned back in my chair, closed my eyes, and the images of Lily and Alex getting intimate kept popping up in my head, stabbing my heart like needles. I didn't want to believe that Lily would betray me, but my friend's words made me face this harsh reality. "What should I do, Tom?" "I really love Lily. I don't want to lose her," I said in pain, feeling like a person who is lost in the dark and can't find a way out. Tom patted my shoulder and comforted me. "First, you have to control your emotions and don't act impulsively. Maybe there is still a way out? You should first observe them secretly for a period of time to see how far they have gone and gather some evidence. Then find an appropriate time to confront Lily and tell her how you feel." I nodded, thinking that Tom had a point. I decided to do as he said and observe for a while to find out the real relationship between Lily and Alex. Since then, I have become very cautious. Every day, Lily goes to the gym, and I secretly note the time. When she is about to come back, I come home early and wait for her as if nothing has happened. I also keep an eye on her phone. Although I know this is wrong, I really can't control my curiosity and anxiety. Once, Lily went to take a shower and her phone was on the table in the living room. After a long hesitation, I finally picked up her phone. My hands were shaking a little as I unlocked it and started going through her chats with Alex. But apart from some conversations about going to the gym, I didn't find anything special. I was a little disappointed, but also a little relieved that maybe Tom and I had misunderstood them. But soon, this thought of mine was shattered. One day, I left work early without telling Lily. When I opened the door to the house, I found that Lily was not at home. I called her, but she never answered. I anxiously waited at home, every second passing by incredibly slowly. It wasn't until after 8 p.m. that Lily finally returned home. She looked surprised to see me at home, but quickly regained her composure. I questioned her about where she had been and why she hadn't answered her phone. She mumbled something about being with friends and that her phone was on silent. I looked at her twinkling eyes and knew she was lying. In the following days, I observed Lily more closely. I noticed that she often received anonymous text messages, and every time she read them, she carefully avoided me. And her social media chat history was always promptly deleted, which made me even more convinced that she and Alex had a secret. My inner pain and anger continued to accumulate. Sometimes when I saw Lily, I couldn't help but want to lose my temper, but I forced myself to hold back and told myself to wait until I had gathered enough evidence. During this time, I also constantly reflected on myself. Was it because I didn't care enough about Lily that I ignored her feelings and gave her the opportunity to develop a relationship with someone else? I thought about the sweet times we had had, the beautiful years we had spent together, and my heart was full of reluctance and unwillingness. I told myself that no matter what, I would save this marriage, and if Lily could come back, I would be willing to forgive her for everything. But if she really betrayed me, I don't know if I would have the courage to face this cruel reality. As time passed, my feelings for Lily became more and more complicated, intertwined with love and hate, plunging me into endless pain and struggle. And the relationship between Lily and I also became increasingly tense in this silent struggle, as if it were a powder keg that could explode at any time. Days passed as I was consumed by my complex emotions towards Lily. On the surface, our lives seemed uneventful, but deep down inside, the fire of anxiety born of doubt never went out. I kept a close eye on Lily's every move, carefully collecting any clues that might prove her betrayal. Every small discovery was like a dull knife, cutting and scraping at my heart again and again. It was an ordinary weekday. Business at the company was surprisingly smooth. I finished the work at hand ahead of schedule, looking forward to going home early, maybe surprising Lily and perhaps breaking the ice in our increasingly cold relationship. Thinking about this, I even deliberately picked a bouquet of red roses, Lily's favorite, when I passed by the flower shop, imagining her long-lost smile when she saw the flowers. When I opened the door, the silence in the house made my heart tighten. According to the usual time, Lily should have already returned home, but the living room was deserted, and there was no sign of her. I placed the flowers on the table and called out her name a few times. The only response I got was an empty echo. I became a little uneasy, took out my phone and called her. After the phone beeped a few times, it went directly to voicemail. I tried calling again and again, but there was still no answer. I paced back and forth in the house, scanning every corner of the living room, trying to find some clue that would explain where she had gone. On the coffee table was a fashion magazine of hers. The page she had opened was about fitness and dressing for it, and next to it was a lipstick she often used. I picked up the lipstick, and the familiar aroma hit my nose, but at this moment this aroma made me feel a stab of pain. I went to the bedroom, where the quilt on the bed was neatly folded, but Lily's gym bag was nowhere to be seen. It seemed that she had gone to the gym, but why hadn't she answered my call? I decided to go to the gym to look for her. When I arrived at the gym, there were far fewer people than usual. I looked for Lily and Alex in every area, but I couldn't find them. I asked a few staff members, and they also said they hadn't seen Lily. I returned home full of disappointment, sat down on the sofa, stared at the fading red roses, and my anger and unease mingled together in my heart. Just then, Lily's phone suddenly vibrated on the coffee table, and an unread message appeared on the screen. I hesitated for a moment, but finally picked up her phone. When I saw that the sender was Alex, my hand trembled involuntarily. I took a deep breath and opened the message, which read, "Baby, the time I spend with you today is always so short. I wish I could stay in that little corner with you forever. Kissing you feels like tasting the sweetest candy." My mind went blank in an instant, as if I had been struck by lightning, and all the blood in my body rushed backwards. I couldn't believe my eyes, and I read the message over and over again. Every word was like a sharp dagger, stabbing into my heart. The truth that I had been unwilling to admit was now staring me in the face. The Lily in my heart, the lover I had sworn eternal love to and been together with for many years, had actually betrayed me. I angrily threw my phone on the sofa, my fists clenched, my knuckles white from the force. I paced back and forth in the living room, and the image of Lily and Alex together kept popping up in my head. They were cuddled up in that little corner, kissing deeply and sweetly, while I was kept in the dark like a fool. I picked up my phone and wanted to call Lily again to question her about what was going on, but I resisted. I told myself to calm down and not act on impulse. I would wait for her to come home and confront her face to face and demand a reasonable explanation. While waiting for Lily, time seemed to have come to a standstill, and every second was incredibly long. I sat on the sofa, my eyes fixed on the door, my anger and pain rising. I don't know how long I waited, but I finally heard the sound of the key in the door. Lily walked in, saw me sitting on the sofa, and her face flashed with surprise before returning to its usual calm. She looked at the bouquet of red roses on the table, and there seemed to be a hint of guilt in her eyes, but she quickly hid it. "Where have you been? Why didn't you answer my calls?" I tried to keep my voice calm, but you could hear the tremor in it. Lily put her bag down and said casually, "I went to the gym, so my phone probably didn't hear it." "What's wrong with you? You don't look very happy." I sneered, picked up her phone and showed her the message. "What's going on? How long were you going to keep this from me?" Lily's face instantly turned pale. Her lips trembled slightly, and her eyes were filled with fear and panic. She opened her mouth, trying to say something, but she couldn't say anything. "Speak." I yelled angrily, "Why are you doing this to me? Is our relationship that fragile?" Tears welled up in Lily's eyes as she tried to reach out to hold my arm, but I shook her off. She cried, "Jack, I didn't mean to do it." I was confused. "I still love you, really." I looked at her, my heart full of disappointment and pain. The trust we once had completely collapsed at that moment. I decided to give her a chance to explain the whole story, but no matter what, I was afraid that our relationship would never be the same again. And I will be in the abyss of pain, searching for the direction of salvation and the final outcome of this broken marriage. It was a night with an oppressive atmosphere that made it hard to breathe. I held the phone tightly, my knuckles turning white, as if it were the only remaining connection I had with this faltering marriage. Lily stood across from me, her eyes flickering, trying to avoid my gaze. The lights in the room were dim and swaying, stretching our shadows into distorted, elongated shapes. I took a deep breath, trying to suppress the surging anger in my heart, and held the screen of my phone in front of her. Alex's ambiguous messages were like sharp blades, piercing my eyes. "Explain to me, what is going on?" My voice was low and trembling, with an imperceptible catch in my throat. Lily's lips trembled slightly, and a hint of panic flashed in her eyes. She tried to force a strained smile and said, "Honey, this is just a misunderstanding." "Alex, he was just joking. Don't take it seriously." Her voice grew smaller and smaller, as if she couldn't convince herself either. I sneered, my eyes full of disappointment and anger. "Joke? What kind of joke is sending a message like that? Do you take me for a fool?" My emotions began to spiral out of control, and my voice raised a few decibels. Lily's face turned pale. She bit her lip, as if trying to organize her words. "Jack, I know I've been getting close to Alex recently, but we really don't have anything. I was just getting to know him when he helped me at the gym." "Acquainted?" I interrupted her. "Acquainted enough to call each other baby and say things like kissing you feels like tasting the sweetest candy? Lily, do you really expect me to believe that?" I felt a wave of nausea, as if something in my stomach was churning. Lily's tears began to well up in her eyes, and she suddenly exclaimed emotionally, "What about you? What have you done for me? You're so busy with work every day that you don't care about me at all. I don't feel love or warmth from you. With Alex, I at least feel like I'm cared for." Her words hit me like a hammer. I didn't expect her to blame me, and for a moment I was at a loss for words. But soon my anger took over again. "Is that your reason for cheating? I work hard for our family, to give you a better life, and you're being so selfish and ungrateful." Our argument grew louder and louder, echoing around the small room. Lily's tears flowed like a broken dam, and she wiped them away with her hands, her voice hoarse with sobs. "You don't understand me at all. You've never really understood what I need. I want companionship, care, someone who will be there for me and listen to me, not a money-making machine." "That's enough," I yelled. "Stop making excuses for your mistakes. You betrayed our marriage and my trust in you, and that's unforgivable." My chest heaved violently, and I felt like I was about to drown in anger and pain. Lily looked at me with despair and resignation in her eyes. "Fine, if that's how you feel, then let's get a divorce. This marriage has brought me no joy." Her voice was sharp and decisive, like a cold knife that cut through the last shreds of warmth between us. Hearing the word divorce, my heart ached as if something had broken in an instant. I looked at the woman I once loved so dearly, but who now seemed so unfamiliar. I pointed angrily at her and yelled, "Divorce? You think it's that easy? You think you can just say the word and it'll all be over?" I turned around, picked up the vase on the table, and smashed it onto the ground. There was a loud crash, and the vase shattered into pieces, scattering all over the floor. Lily was shocked by my actions. She took a few steps back, her eyes filled with fear. "Jack, calm down," Lily shouted, her voice shaking slightly. I looked at her, took a deep breath, and tried to calm myself down. "Lily, I'll give you one more chance. Tell me the truth. How far did you and Alex get? If you still want to save our marriage, don't lie to me anymore." Lily was silent for a while. Her shoulders trembled slightly, and finally she whispered, We just kissed. Nothing else happened. I know I was wrong. I really regret it. I don't want to lose you, Jack. I closed my eyes, my heart filled with mixed emotions. I wanted to believe her, but the ambiguous messages and her previous strange behavior made it hard for me to let go. Do you think I can still trust you? I slowly opened my eyes and looked at her, my eyes full of fatigue. Lily cried and threw herself at me, hugging my legs. Jack, please forgive me. I promise I will never contact Alex again. I will love you well and take care of our home. I looked at her, and the anger in my heart gradually gave way to exhaustion and helplessness. I pushed her away and said, I need to calm down now. I want to go for a walk. After saying that, I turned around and slammed the door, leaving Lily alone in the room crying. I walked down the empty street. The cold wind blew on my face, causing it to ache. The street lamps on both sides of the street cast a dim yellow light, and my shadow was stretched long. I looked up at the sky, my heart full of confusion and despair. I didn't know where this marriage, which I once cherished so much, should go. That night after the heated argument, I wandered the streets alone for a long time, and the cold wind seemed to try to pierce me. The pain and anger inside me were intertwined, surging through me like a raging tide. In the darkness, I kept asking myself, where should this marriage go? And Alex, the one who destroyed my family, what kind of person is he really? When I got home, Lily was curled up on the sofa, asleep, with dried tears on her face. I looked at her, my heart filled with mixed emotions, torn between the love I once felt and the disappointment and anger I felt now. I didn't wake her, but just sat quietly beside her, my mind racing with thoughts of how to uncover Alex's true nature. The next morning, Lily woke up and saw me sitting next to her. A flash of surprise crossed her eyes, but it was quickly replaced by guilt. She opened her mouth as if she wanted to say something, but in the end she didn't. I looked at her and said calmly, I've decided to investigate Alex, so you'd better not hide anything from me. Lily's body tensed slightly, and then she nodded gently. From that day on, I began investigating Alex. I first asked some gym colleagues about him, but most of them didn't know much about him, except that he was a very popular trainer with a fit body and a good tongue. This deepened my suspicions. Why could an ordinary fitness trainer attract Lily so easily, even making her betray our marriage? Through some friends, I found a few women who had had contact with Alex. Some of them had surprisingly consistent opinions about Alex. He was a man who knew how to please women, always keenly aware of their needs, and giving them care and attention. But as their relationship deepened, they discovered that Alex was not serious about relationships and would always suddenly disappear after a period of flirting. I also found a woman named Sarah who had a relationship with Alex. Sarah told me that Alex is a veteran of the dating scene, and he is good at using his charm and sweet talk to confuse women. He will appear when a woman is at her most vulnerable, giving them warmth and comfort, so that they mistakenly believe they have found true love. But in reality, he just treats them as playthings, and once he gets bored, he will abandon them without mercy. He is a selfish person who only cares about his own feelings. Sarah's eyes filled with tears. I once thought he was my Mr. Right, but I never imagined that he was just playing with my feelings. I hope you can let more people know his true colors and prevent other women from being hurt. Hearing Sarah's words, the anger in my heart flared up again. I decided to continue investigating in depth and collect more evidence. I began to follow Alex and observe his every move. I found that he often met with different women after work and behaved intimately with them. He would take them to fancy restaurants and bars and pay them great attention. One time, I saw him in a restaurant with a young girl. His hand kept stroking the girl's hand, and he had a charming smile on his face. The girl was giggling at his antics, her eyes full of adoration. I took out my phone and secretly filmed the scene. After a period of investigation, I finally gathered enough evidence to prove that Alex is a scumbag who specializes in seducing married women. I organized the evidence and decided to show it to Lily. When I laid the evidence in front of Lily, her face instantly turned pale as paper. Her hands trembled uncontrollably, and her eyes were filled with fear and remorse. This can't be. He's not like this. Lily's voice trembled slightly as she tried to defend Alex. I looked at her coldly and said, You're still defending him? These are all the evidence I obtained from my own investigation. Don't you believe it yet? I showed her the photos and videos on my phone one by one. Each photo and video was like a sharp blade, piercing her heart. Lily looked at the evidence and tears welled up in her eyes again. She put her hands on her head and burst into tears. How could I be so stupid? I've been deceived. I've really been deceived. Her cries were full of remorse and self-blame. I looked at her and my resentment eased a little. I knew that she was also a victim, bewitched by Alex's sweet talk. But her betrayal still caused me tremendous harm. Lily, I hope you can see his true colors and never have anything to do with him again, I said to her, looking her in the eye. Our marriage is on the verge of collapse, and if you really want to save it, you must completely break with the past. Lily looked up, her eyes full of tears, and nodded firmly. I know I was wrong, and I will sever all ties with him. I really regret it, and I don't want to lose you or our home. Looking at her remorseful expression, the defense in my heart gradually began to crumble. Although I was still unable to completely forgive her betrayal, I decided to give her another chance and our marriage a chance. After all, we had so many good memories, and I didn't want to give up this relationship so easily. But I knew that there was still a long way to go to truly repair our marriage. And the appearance of Alex was like a nightmare. Although it was about to pass, the pain it left behind would take a long time to heal. Ever since Lily cried to me about her regrets and asked for my forgiveness, our lives have been in a strange stalemate. On the surface, we still live under the same roof, doing the same familiar daily chores, but there's an indescribable awkwardness and oppression in the air. Often late at night, I would sit alone on the sofa in the living room, looking out at the night sky, weighing up in my heart whether I should forgive Lily. The moonlight shone on the floor, reflecting my shadow and making me feel especially lonely. I thought of all the good times we had spent together, and those sweet memories flooded my mind like a tide. We had strolled together on the beach, celebrated birthdays together, and worked hard together for our dreams in the future. But now, all of that was overshadowed by Lily's betrayal. Lily seems to sense my struggle. She has become cautious and always looks at me with a mixture of expectation and fear. She tries to win me back, preparing my favorite meals every day, cleaning the house to a shine, and taking my coat when I come home from work, asking me if I'm tired. But these actions make me feel even more uncomfortable because I don't know how to respond to her enthusiasm, and I don't know if I can still love her as much as I used to. One day, I was overwhelmed with work at the office, and the pressure from work exhausted me. At that moment, my phone suddenly received a message from Lily. Dear, you must be tired from work today. I've made your favorite braised pork for you. I'll be waiting for you when you get home. Looking at this message, a complex emotion welled up in my heart. On the one hand, I felt a little warmth from her concern. On the other hand, I could not forget her betrayal in the past, and the thorn in my heart still ached faintly. After work, I returned home with a heavy heart. As soon as I opened the door, I could smell the aroma of braised pork. Lily came out of the kitchen with a smile on her face, but a hint of nervousness in her eyes. You're back. Go wash your hands and eat, she said softly. I nodded silently and went into the kitchen to wash my hands. As I sat at the table, looking at the plate of delicious-looking braised pork, I suddenly lost my appetite. Lily sat across from me, looking at me carefully and saying, What's wrong? Doesn't it taste good? I put down my chopsticks, looked at her, and said seriously, Lily, I know you want to make amends, but I really don't know what to do. The harm you have caused me is too great, and it is really difficult for me to get over this hurdle in my heart. Lily's eyes reddened, and she lowered her head, her voice trembling as she said, I know I was wrong, and I really regret it. I am willing to spend my whole life making up for my mistakes, as long as you can forgive me. She looked up, her eyes full of tears. We used to love each other so much. Can't these feelings make you give me another chance? I looked at her, my heart filled with conflict. I thought of the vows we had made, to support each other no matter what, and never to leave each other. But now, she had broken our vow. I thought of our friends and family. What would they think of our marriage? How disappointed would they be if we got divorced? In the days that followed, I was plunged into an even more agonizing struggle. I began to avoid Lily and minimize contact with her. I would work late into the night or stay out late on the pretext of entertaining clients. Lily seemed to sense my avoidance, and her eyes were filled with despair and helplessness. One time, I was out drinking and got drunk. In a daze, I called my friend Tom. Tom drove me home and saw Lily anxiously waiting at the door. When Lily saw me drunk, her eyes were full of pain. She quickly came over to help me and put me to bed. As I lay in bed, watching her busy figure, I suddenly felt a touch in my heart. Tom was watching us from the side and whispered to me, "Jack, I know you're in pain, but Lily really seems to be regretting it. Everyone makes mistakes. Maybe you should give her a chance. You two have such a deep relationship. It would be a shame to give up just like that." Tom's words made me think. I thought about all the little things Lily had done for me and the happy times we had spent together. Maybe I really should give her another chance and give myself a chance too. After all, we still deeply loved each other. It was just that this love had been overshadowed by the hurt. The next morning, I woke up to find Lily sitting by the bed, her eyes red and puffy, having obviously stayed up all night. She looked at me with surprise when she saw I had woken up and said, "You're awake. How do you feel?" I looked at her and said seriously, "Lily, I've decided to give you another chance, but you must promise that you will never betray me again." Tears filled Lily's eyes as she said excitedly, "I promise. I will love you well in the future and never let you suffer again." She hugged me tightly, and I could feel her body trembling. Although I had made this difficult choice, I knew that there was still a long way to go to truly repair our marriage. The trust between us had been broken, and it would take time and effort to rebuild it. But I was willing to try, for the love we once had and for our future. Since then, Lily has become more cautious, and she has proven her determination with her actions. I, too, am trying hard to let go of the pain of the past and to accept and love her again. Our lives have gradually improved, but those painful memories are always like a shadow, occasionally rising in my heart. However, I believe that as long as we love and understand each other, we will be able to completely get out of this haze and regain a happy life. After deciding to give Lily a chance, I was still filled with conflict and unease. Although on the surface I pretended to have let go, whenever I saw her, the pain of the past would flood back. But I knew that since I had chosen to start over, I had to try to forget the unpleasant past and rebuild the trust between us. Lily seems to understand this as well, and she carefully protects this hard-won opportunity between us. She took the initiative to resign from her membership at the gym where she and Alex met, and deleted all the contact information related to Alex from her phone. She even handed over her phone to me to inspect it as a way to prove her determination. In order to repair our relationship, we decided to go on a trip together. I chose a seaside town that we had always longed to visit, but had never been able to for various reasons. As we set foot on that strange but hopeful land, the fresh sea breeze blew in, with a salty taste, as if it also blew away some of the gloom in our hearts. We checked into a cozy bed and breakfast, and the window of our room faced the sea. After unpacking, Lily went to the window and quietly looked out at the sea, her eyes revealing a hint of longing and expectation. I walked over to her and gently took her hand. She looked over at me, a hint of surprise in her eyes, and then shook my hand back firmly. In the following days, we strolled along the beach together. In the morning, we would hold hands as we welcomed the first rays of sunshine, watching the sun slowly rise from the sea level and dyeing the entire sky golden yellow. The sand beneath our feet was soft and warm, and the waves lapped against our ankles in a rhythmic sound. Lily would run on the beach like a child, leaving trails of footprints behind her, and then excitedly pick up the beautiful shells and show them to me, her eyes shining. We also went to the local seafood market together, selected fresh ingredients, and returned to the homestay to cook a sumptuous seafood meal together. In the kitchen, Lily volunteered to wash and cut the vegetables, while I took charge of the cooking. Occasionally, we would have little interactions, such as when I would sneakily smear a little flour on her face when she wasn't looking, and she would chase after me laughing. At that moment, it felt as if we had returned to the sweet times when we were first in love. However, there are bound to be hiccups in a beautiful time. Once, we were resting in a cafe by the sea, and at the next table sat a young couple. The guy was exceptionally considerate towards the girl, constantly passing her coffee and whispering sweet nothings. Seeing this scene, the image of Lily and Alex together suddenly flashed through my mind, and I couldn't help but feel a stab of pain. My face instantly turned a little ugly, and Lily seemed to sense my unease. She gently took my hand and whispered, "I'm sorry, it's my fault for reminding you of those unpleasant things. But I've really let go, and now I only have you in my heart." I looked into her sincere eyes and tried to calm myself down. I nodded. From then on, Lily paid more attention to my emotional changes. Whenever she sensed that I might be reminded of the past pain because of something, she would give me timely comfort and care. On the last day of our trip, we climbed a small hill near the town to watch the sunset. When we reached the top, the sun had already begun to set, and the sky was painted a brilliant red. We sat quietly on the grass at the top of the hill, neither of us saying a word, just snuggled close together, feeling the warmth of each other's presence. Lily suddenly broke the silence and said softly, "Jack, this trip has meant a lot to me. It has helped me rediscover the love we once had. I know I have made unforgivable mistakes and caused you great harm, but please believe me, I will spend the rest of my life making amends. I hope we can truly start over, forget the past, and move on." I looked at her, and the last shred of doubt in my heart gradually faded away. I stroked her hair gently and said, "Lily, let bygones be bygones. I also did not do well, and I did not give you enough care and companionship. From now on, we must work hard for our future." After saying that, we smiled at each other and then embraced tightly. At that moment, the afterglow of the sunset spilled over us, stretching our shadows long. After returning home, our lives gradually got back on track. Lily started to replan her life, and she signed up for some interest classes to learn painting and yoga to make her life more fulfilling. And I also tried to reduce overtime as much as possible and spend more time with her. We would go to the movies and go shopping together, and we would regularly invite friends over to our house for parties. Although occasionally we still have conflicts over trivial matters, we communicate promptly and understand each other. The shadows of the past still appear from time to time, but we firmly believe that as long as we love and trust each other, we will be able to dispel those shadows and regain a happy and fulfilling life. Our marriage has also become stronger and more precious after this baptism of storms.